Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of QTM Talks. My name is Nikki Prado from the Qatar Travel Mart exhibition. Despite the challenges confronting the tourism travel industry, Qatar Travel Mart once again made another significant development with its recent collaboration that aims to raise awareness of the need to protect the world's most vulnerable cultural heritage possessions. For today's episode, we are deeply honored to have the President and CEO of the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage, all the way from Australia, Mr. Chris Flynn. Welcome to QTM Talks, Chris.
Hi, Nikki. How are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Good afternoon in Australia. Good morning from Doha.
Well, yes, good morning. It's the sun is just about to go down, so it's getting dark here now, as it normally does this time of the year. But yeah, we've had a beautiful day here. I hope you have a beautiful day there too.
Thank you very much. So let's start off. Could you please tell us more about the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage?
Sure. The organization was formed out of concern for the kind of things that we were seeing around the world. In my previous position, I was the director for the Pacific, for part of the Pacific Asia Travel Association. And I saw firsthand the kind of erosion that was occurring within the cultural heritage environments that I would visit on a regular basis. I had 22 countries to manage. And it's both degradation and exploitation of culture that was becoming a real concern. And a lot of this was being driven by the fact that the existing tourism plans and strategies that were in place didn't take into consideration the need to protect their cultural environments, to protect what was unique to those particular islands or destinations. I then, because culture and heritage has been something close to my heart for many, many years. In fact, I got into this industry and I got into the love of culture because as a teenager, I was a musician. And I was invited to play in Italy. I represented Ireland, and I was invited to play in Italy. My first performance as a 16-year-old kid was on a 2,000-year-old amphitheater in the Apennine Mountains outside of Rome. So it struck me from a very early age that this whole need to celebrate and to experience culture. So I was invited about 4 years ago to present at an amazing event in China. They only invited 4 people from around the world, and they asked me in particular to focus on culture and heritage. And the idea for that was that they saw that there was a need to protect the authenticity and protect the integrity of their cultural environments around, particularly on the West environments of China. So I came back and I began to research why the Chinese would really want to focus on culture, because they don't necessarily do things for no reason. And it became very obvious that with this whole issue that we've experienced recently of over-tourism, and with the growth of the economy in China and Asia in particular, and this growing middle class, that there was going to be a surge in outbound travel from the region. Now, with the research that I was looking at, on average, when you look at just one demographic, when you look at just the millennial travelers, but between 75 and 84% of millennial travelers, the number one thing they wanted to do was to have a true, authentic cultural experience somewhere in the world. And as we were expecting over 100 million within a 5-year period, that was a problem. Because if the checks and balances weren't in place then, how are we going to manage this without destroying these very fragile cultures in many aspects? So in my position, I spoke to a number of organizations around the world, the UN, UNESCO, etc. And there were no plans in place to cope with this. So I took it upon myself to form and launch the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage in collaboration with some of the most amazing senior experts in different fields of tourism and associated industries, to give us a platform where we could start to build the codes of conduct, the ethical standards, and various other aspects of what is needed to ensure the cultures of the world remain intact for future generations. So that's how we formed it. That was the thinking behind it. That was the experience behind it. And I'm very pleased to say that since its inception, we've grown from strength to strength. And there is a very real understanding now of the need to protect these environments. Because if you think about it, Nikki, the whole world, you know, we live in a homogenized society. The only thing that we have that's true and authentic is our culture. The only thing that a destination has that's true and authentic is its culture. And it's that invisible skin that we all wear that tells people who we are that is going to be celebrated for the future. So I'm very pleased to say that, as I said, we're going from strength to strength. And this whole idea of raising the profile of the need to protect culture and heritage is now really gathering momentum.
So Chris, as we know, we are already in July. Half of 2020 is already gone. And we've been in this pandemic for about 4 months and growing. So how do you see the current state of the travel and tourism industry?
The reality is that there's going to be no quick fix for this. And I've been invited and I've spoken on quite a number of panel discussions and various other different platforms. And I've been surprised, to be honest with you, Nikki, that there seems to be this optimism that we're going to get over this quickly. We're not. There is going to be no new normal, and we're not going back to a normal, and we shouldn't go back to a normal. If you think about what tourism has done in the past, there's been some good and some bad. But this whole idea of over tourism, of selling a destination till it's literally on its knees, when too much is never enough, it's crazy. It's people now have had a chance to sit back and think. So the motivations will change. Why people travel will change. What they want to experience is the genuine article. When we've looked at these crowds in Venice, when we've looked at these crowds in Croatia and Iceland and all these other places around the world, you know, most people, when they look at these destinations, they are sold an image that is pristine, that is beautiful, whether it's an environment or whether it's one of the bridges of Venice or whatever that is. And when they get there, there are millions of people swamping the streets. People moving forward from COVID-19 will want what's on the brochure. And if a destination can't deliver that, they will suffer from a reputational standpoint, and that could be very damaging long term. So there's going to be no quick fix. The key leadership of the industry in aviation, such as IATA and ICAO, have been almost deafening in their silence as they try to work out how we're going to manage this. This whole idea of social distancing, this whole idea of testing people at airports, this whole idea of creating secure environments to people to visit our destinations isn't an easy fix. So we're talking 2 to 3 years before we start to get back to any kind of equilibrium. I won't say new normal, it's going to be a new abnormal that we go back to. And we need to be prepared for that. And those people around have the capacity now to inject their ideas and their innovations to ensure that when we do go back, we are bigger and stronger, but we are better prepared. But it's going to be no overnight success. It's going to take some considerable time.
If I may just add, mentioning 3 years recovery period for this crisis, do you think compared to other crises that we have experienced before, is this like the longer period of recovery compared to SARS or these things?
Let's look at SARS. Okay, SARS was predicted to be the next pandemic. So this happened in 2003. It happened to a handful of destinations, but a lot of destinations were affected by SARS that didn't actually have anybody that suffered from SARS. Australia was one of them. And Australia had a huge decline in visitation simply because people wouldn't transit via destinations like Singapore and Hong Kong that were affected by SARS. But in the real terms, SARS only had just over 8,000 cases worldwide. and there were less than 800 deaths worldwide. And it took a year to recover. That's both for the hotel industry in the destinations that were affected and the aviation industry. The aviation industry in North America, and don't forget, it only lasted for 2 months. It only lasted between April and May. 8,000 cases, less than 800 deaths, okay? And yet it sent 2 of the national carriers in North America and Air Canada into bankruptcy protection. So you think about what we're experiencing now. If it took a year to recover from SARS that lasted 2 months and had 8,000 cases, you do the math. It's going to take some considerable time, but it's going to take a concerted effort and a collaboration like we've never seen before. And I think destinations, ministers, and tourism bodies need to be prepared for that, but also to be part of the constructive dialogue that must ensue if we're going to actually come out of this stronger.
Yes, I think it's very visible now that tourism boards, associations, the tourism industry is really coming together to make sure that we recover, if not fast, but we do recover, you know. So, Chris, for the culture and heritage organization like WTACH, how important is the role of this type of organization during this crisis?
It's very important. We have chance to take a breath. We have chance to take a step back and take a look at things. And when we look around the world, in terms of my world, in the world of culture and heritage, you know, there are a number of different things that we need to consider. And where my organization comes into this this discussion is how we support destinations and what we do with destinations. I'll give you some examples of what I'm talking about. It's not just about you know, the environment or the environment that tourism creates that has the potential to impact, say, a local tribe or whatever. It can go much bigger than that. If you look at Rapa Nui, Easter Island, you know, it's quite amazing, isn't it, that these giant moai heads that we are all aware of, they seem to be somehow in our DNA. Everybody knows what they are and where they are. Tourism, of course, on an island like that is incredibly important. So the government went out and said, okay, let's grow tourism. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to grow our economy. It's going to support our social standards and increase and better our social environment. Last year, 2019, it's actually 2018, beg your pardon, they received just over 100,000 visitors on this tiny island in the middle of the Pacific. They have less than 6,000 population on the island. Now, each and every day, they have to manage 20 tons of garbage that they need to get rid of, that they hadn't factored into the equation. And that garbage, the recyclable garbage, is flown out every day to Chile on an aircraft, which kind of defeats the object, and the remainder has to be burnt on the island. And this is because there was no carrying capacity plan done. What I mean by that is destinations have the opportunity, particularly now, to understand and to work out how many tourists they can take before they break, how many tourists they can manage without having a detrimental effect on our environment, on our culture, on our heritage assets, and how we can sustain that for future generations. Because the critical thing is, with anything to do with culture, once it's gone, it's gone. And this whole idea of over-tourism that we were experiencing, which has been brought to an immediate stop right now, thankfully to some degree. I mean, I'm not saying COVID-19 is wonderful. I'm saying we've had chance now to think about this. That was becoming our plastic in the ocean. That was becoming tourism's issue that we were prepared to bury our heads and not recognize. So now WTACH is working with destinations on tourism planning, on tourism strategy, on how to develop carrying capacity studies, on looking to develop events that celebrate their culture and heritage, that have this social connection within their own environment to celebrate who they are. Very often, and I'm sure this was the same for you when you were back in the Philippines, you know, we take our own culture for granted because we see it every day. We don't necessarily understand the significance and the importance of what it is on a world stage. And we don't understand how fragile it is and how it can be corrupted. So to answer your question, the significance of an organization like us right now is to work with these destinations, is to work with the various different government departments, not just tourism, but other departments that rely on tourism, to work out best plans and strategies on how we can move forward.
Is it safe to say that even though we're going through a crisis, but this crisis was also an opportunity for the destinations to heal, as what they say, like, you know, over tourism is totally gone during this pandemic. Is it safe to say that it was also an opportunity for this destination to heal, or the culture and heritage to, you know, go back to its healthy state?
Absolutely. And it's a chance for learning. And I'll give you another example. You've probably not heard of this, but in the Andaman Sea, as part of India, they have a bunch of islands that are populated by what are Stone Age people. They originated from Africa, and they've lived on these islands for tens of thousands of years with almost no, in many cases, no human interaction whatsoever. One of them is called the Jarowa tribe. Now, the Jarowa tribe were isolated, just like the Aboriginals were, for thousands and thousands of years. What happened prior to COVID-19 was that illegal tour groups were operating. Just backtrack. There's a law, an Indian law, that says you are not permitted to interact with these people on any way, shape, or form, because they are protected and because they've lived these thousands of years in isolation. There are illegal tours and tour groups going out doing human safaris. Think about that. Just like we go and see lions and tigers and what have you, human safaris. And illegally, they are interacting with the Jarowa tribe. So much so that they've had to build a hospital so that they can treat them for diabetes because they don't have money. So what do? They give them cake. They give them, you know, sweets and various different things. So they have diabetes, they have conjunctivitis, they have all these different ailments now that they've never had before. Now, it's very easy for a government to turn a blind eye to that if there's money to be made. But these are the kind of things that need to be stopped. And this is the opportunity to recover from it, to put these plans and these strategies in place. So, yeah, COVID-19 is a dreadful thing, but it should give smart destinations the opportunity to rethink their strategies, to rethink how they are going to promote culture and heritage tourism in a way that sustains, protects, and preserves their culture. And I'm pleased to say that there are quite a number of destinations right now that are doing that. I think the latest one was Greece. Their prime minister last week made an announcement and said, we need to spread our tourism over 365 days, not cram it into 2 months. And by doing that, we will now celebrate our culture and we will develop to our culture and heritage for our future visitors. That's the kind of thinking that we need, you know, and we will do it sustainably and responsibly.
Thank you, Chris. So let's just continue. Could you just share your other learnings during these challenging times, and please share your message to the industry peers as well?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we did to support the industry moving forward is we're very fortunate in WTACH, that's how we pronounce it, that we have a fantastic board. Our board is a mix of tourism experts, academics, and various other researchers, that when we actually bring it all together, it gives us a holistic view of what's going on. Now, with our network and with our network around the world, we hosted a 12-episode series that we called Keeping the Dream Alive. And I encourage everybody to go to our website and have a look at these presentations. We have the podcast, the videos, the PowerPoint presentations of all these global experts, 12 of them, that focused on different elements and different aspects of the industry and what we needed to consider to move forward and to transition out of COVID-19 in a positive and a stronger way. We had a phenomenal response to this series. We were in, I think it was 64 or 65 countries, and we had hundreds and hundreds of registrations. So what we're trying to do now is to build a repository of information, of expert experiences that people can tap into to help them or guide them through to the next phase. The next part of what we will do is we will run some masterclasses on certain elements such as innovation. Innovation during crisis is a critical aspect. Marcoms, how to market, how to use, data analysis to better plan how you're going to move forward in terms of marketing, your marketing spend. Carolyn Childs, who is one of my board members, is arguably one of the best marketeers and, in my opinion, the best tourism researcher on the planet. We have all this repository of knowledge and experience that we're sharing now with the industry. So I encourage everyone to go to our website, look for the Keeping the Dream Alive tag at the top of the page, and get as much information as you possibly can, because it's incredibly valuable stuff and we're giving it away for free.
Thank you very much, Chris. You know what? I was really planning to introduce and tell our viewers about this Keeping the Dream Alive series, because I'm one of those who have watched episodes of that. And my favorite part is, of course, your webinar session where you said that we are here, we are all in this together. We need to work out together to find solutions, share our experiences, our expertise for us to be able to, recover in this pandemic.
It's quite interesting, when it comes to sharing knowledge, there is a tendency for people in general to want to share the positive messages. And I understand that. But, we learn just as much from the things that go wrong. In fact, we learn more. So what we need to understand is, where did we succeed? Where did we fail? So that we don't go down this path again. And, I am sure as we start to move into the masterclass phase and as we start to do these other panel discussions that we're planning to do in the future, that there'll be, as I say, this huge repository of information and knowledge. The thing about it is, I think all of us are a little bit sort of exhausted with webinars right now. We need to take a breath ourselves and we need to plan accordingly, because we're going to be in this for a while. So let's start, doing things in stages, learning in stages, and delivering our experiences at the appropriate time.
I look forward to those master classes, Chris.
Okay.
We are very proud to have you, WTACH, as our association partner for QTM. Thank you very much for really working with us. So what do you look forward to this collaboration with QTM?
I think this is a fantastic opportunity for both of our organizations. I think one of the things that is coming out loud and clear with COVID-19 is this need to be responsible, this need to build trust, this need to have an honest approach in what we do moving forward. And I think this particular partnership offers all of us a number of opportunities. For my organization, it's a wonderful platform for us to raise awareness of what we do. It's a wonderful platform for us to share our ideas, our innovations with both the industry, the media, and the various different government departments. We can only transition out of this, as we said earlier, by sharing these things. And as I also said earlier, if we don't put the plans in place that are going to protect our cultural and heritage assets, then once it's gone for good. So this partnership offers us an opportunity to showcase this, to explore this, to discuss this, to raise questions about this, and to learn from it. And I think that's why myself and my team are so excited to be to be working with you on this. And I sincerely look forward to sharing more ideas as we move forward on what we can do to increase this awareness, because it's so critical right now.
Thank you very much, Chris. We really appreciate your time, and we really look forward to having you in Qatar. We are very much excited with this collaboration. And as you said, let's continue working together to make this recovery faster.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki. I do appreciate it.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of QTM Talks. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you for watching.